Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. My name's Daniel. I'm an additive consultant here with Mark3D. I've got my colleague Misha in the background. She's running things. So if suddenly I drop out or you can't hear anything, just raise your hand or put a note in there and she'll sort it out. So we'll make a start. Probably a couple more people will trickle in as we go. But today's webinar is all about what's new for 2022 with Mark3D. Oh, well, Markforged supported by Mark3D. So I'm going to share some slides. Obviously, at the end of it, it's going to be a Q&A session. I want to make it as interactive as we can. Everyone's tired of webinars and PowerPoints these days, so I'll keep it short, keep it punchy. Think of your questions at the end. I'll do my best to answer. Anything I can't answer, what I can do is promise I'll get you an answer from Markforged themselves. So have a think as we go through it. I'll just drop into the slides. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, hopefully you can see that there, and I'll be up in the top right hand side of the screen. So, as I mentioned, what's new for 2022? What can you expect? So, as an agenda, I'll cover who Markforged are. I can see through the attendees, we've got some customers who are well versed in the technology, some who are looking at it already with us, and some who I've never spoken to before. So, like I said, my name's Daniel. Pleased to meet you if you haven't already met. I'll just give you one side on Mark3D and our relationship with Markforged. 2 minutes on each of our technologies, and then we'll get into it. So I'll briefly recap what we released in 2021 in case you missed anything, and then the exciting stuff for 2022. And I'll do your best to answer, or my best to answer any of your questions. So, put me on the spot. I can't promise to answer them, but I will do my best. So, who are Markforged? Most people have heard of Markforged these days. I mean, 3D printing in general is nothing new. It was invented back in the 80s by a guy called Chuck Hall. So, the history of 3D printing is there's tons of tech out there, all with their niches and positives. But Markforged came to the market in 2013 with strong parts. What they were fed up with was real big, high-end printers costing millions of pounds, just in the blue chips of the world, and no accessibility to real engineering grade materials. So that's where they stepped in with their composites, and it's gone somewhere from there. They've gone into metals and with supersizing composites. So they have this concept of the digital forge, which is the marriage between software, engineering grade materials, and precision equipment. And that kind of closed loop concept gives you repeatability and you're part of the end of the day, which is what you're really interested in. So Mark3D, who are Mark3D and why do we exist? So Markforged obviously are based in the US, in Boston, or just outside in a place called Watertown at the moment. And they use a reseller channel, partners, to distribute, support, and teach you guys how to use this stuff in location. So Mark3D do nothing but Markforged. We have dedicated ourselves to their products, their software, their training, their materials. So it's all we do. So we're the experts in it, basically. So if you want to talk to Markforged, you basically come to us if you're in Northern Europe, the basic cost, UK, Germany, Benelux, Austria, a whole host of countries in Europe, basically. So we've put literally thousands of machines, 6 offices, a load of employees. It's boring stuff really at this point, but essentially, if you want to know Markforged, you should be speaking to us. So enough of that. Let's get on to the technology. Now, as I mentioned, there's 2 core technologies, composites and metals. So there's a brief video here, playing there basically. So this is a 20-second clip of the composite technology, just the workflow from software to printer to end-use part. What the composites really do, what our unique element is, inlaying continuous fiberglass that you can see there, picking up that combine harvester, which weighs 16 tons by the way, giving you phenomenal strength. So we're using like a polymer FFF kind of technique, which most people are familiar with, but ironing in those premium materials. So as I mentioned, that combine weighs 16 tons. In the bottom right, there was a carbon fiber chain link of the same size.
One is like problem with the sound.
Okay, apparently people can't hear me. Bear with me just 1 second. A bit muffled.
Yeah, there's no it sounds like it's coming out of an enclosed capsule.
Okay, is it any better if I'm a little bit closer to the microphone? Let me try switching between microphones. Bear with me
Yeah,
one second.
better,
Better?
better.
Okay, perfect. I'll just speak up and I'll be a bit closer. It's a bit in your face, but apologies for that. Okay, as I was saying, composites, you saw that customer video of ours from Klaus. That combine harvester weighs 16 tons. The reason we can get these phenomenal properties is inlaying continuous carbon fibre, Kevlar, or variants of fiberglass to build up a strength and open up different applications. So in the bottom right was a chain link with carbon fibre. That failed at just over 11 tons. That was printed on a desktop printer, not much bigger than if you put your thumbs and your forefingers together like that. Phenomenal strength. So real, if you think about it, if you're machining aluminium and you want that kind of strength, we can swap that out with a composite part printed overnight at a fraction of the cost. Okay, so just a couple of points on the composite technology. Going beyond just the strength we offer, we really are a printer for engineers. So it's about accuracy and surface finish. If you want a nice finished part that's repeatable and holds a tolerance, that's when you come to us. In all honesty, if you want fancy figurines, colours and other bits and pieces like that, that is not our bag at the moment. We are all about engineering grade materials and properties. As you can see by the stress strain curve there, we've got our polymers right down the bottom, but then the fibres we use also plotted against the 6000 series aluminium. So you can see the carbon fibre there with its tensile strength being phenomenal by comparison. So enough of the composites. Hope you can all still hear me. Onto metal. So this was a new development around the 2017 mark. 3D printing metal is nothing new, but it has traditionally been phenomenally expensive. Beyond that, the health and safety issues of granulated powder are the main concern for people looking at it. It's not necessarily the price. If you've got the application, the technology's there, but bringing something that could be carcinogenic in a granulated form inside is a big no-no. So Markforged decided to address that. And what they've done, they've gone for a blend between MIN and FFF technology, the filament technology that we extrude. So we put our metal in a polymer, in a wax kind of binder, and extrude that just like the polymer printers. Completely safe to handle. You can see the metal X over my shoulder here. We can have that printing in any environment, in all honesty. Classroom environment through to workshop. Then what we do is flip back to their post-processing of MIN. So we pop it in a wash, dissolve the wax. That gives us micro porosity, which allows us to burn out polymer and sinter our parts into a dense metal part.
We've got please try the other mic options. The sound is okay.
Okay, someone's asking me just to flip between the mic again. Let me try something. There we go, guys. Apologies.
Can everybody hear me? Perfect. Apparently that's clearer. So we'll crack on. Where I was, with this three-step process, and it's the fastest way to a metal part. There are quicker technologies to produce and solidify metal, but total process time, this is the fastest way, cheapest and safest way to a metal part. So you see in the top right there, we've got a speeded up time lapse of the printing process. Again, we're extruding that material, putting down a ceramic between the support and the part that breaks down in the furnace. So no machining of supports, they drop away after the sintering process. It makes it nice and simple. Bottom left, you can see our sinter 2 there. I've got a sinter 1 behind me over my shoulder here. This is the furnace that Markforged have developed to sinter these parts. The real magic, to be honest, is in the software. When we extrude our parts, they come out in what we call a green state. It's like a hard clay at this point, but it won't represent your CAD. It will typically be about 20% bigger. After the wash and sintering process, that shrinks to size. You can see there the materials we currently have on offer from stainless, tool steels, Inconel 625 and pure copper. So it was up a wide range of applications. Now the top 5 benefits of the Metal X then. Fastest metal parts. We're talking next day metal, a 2-day turnaround. That means there's no heat treatment afterwards to remove stresses, no machining of supports. Our surface finish is best in class. we can actually improve it while it's in its green state. We can work it while it's like a hard clay before we sinter it to get a lovely near mirror finish. We're the only FFF style metal printer that can do solid parts. There's some technical reasons for that. It's to do with the debinding. There's 3 ways of debinding. We use a solvent to dissolve the wax binder. That allows us to do fully dense metal parts if you wanted to. If you don't, we can put an infill structure, a triangular gyroid infill inside there and put a completely encapsulating skin over that infill. Now that's another unique benefit because with powder-based technology, you normally have to leave a face to evacuate, face open, should I say, to evacuate that unsintered powder. Quick release supports, I've already touched on that, but I'm a machinist by trade and I understand the frustration of getting a beautiful metal part out of a 3D printer to then have to spend a day programming and milling those supports away, especially when you're doing something like an Inconel 625, which just eats milling cutters. There's 6 materials. I've already touched on those. I won't repeat myself, but the benefit is the change over time is so simple. It's a spool on, spool off. We say it takes 10 minutes. It's 2 minutes manual time. We just have a warm-up process of about 6 minutes to make that filament malleable enough to start printing. It heats it up to about 50 degrees C. And then the big one, the health and safety element of it. I used to run a 3D metal printer that was laser-based. I am not knocking it because I loved my machine, but I used to look like a beekeeper. I'd have a positive air pressure mask on, anti-static shoes, paper suit, there'd be all kinds of PPE. And now we just press print, get your part, away you go. So we've covered the materials. Let's cover what Markforged released in 2021, just in case you missed it. So starting with part quality, people think we're best in class surface finish, but we're constantly working on our parameters to improve that part. And the reason for that, everyone likes a nice part, but if you're making end use parts that you're selling and you're replacing injection molding or machining, you want the best part you can get. So on this screen here at the moment, we've got a picture of what we would call our unidirectional roof fill. So that's the back and forth motion of the extrusion on your top face of your part. Now, you used to be able to see what we would call tram lines. We've now improved our parameters, and that is a lovely, beautiful, smooth finish now. So if you haven't, if you're already a user of Markforged and you've got your file, what we call an MFP file set up, just printing, please reslice it. You're going to see some beautiful improvements just through reslicing, not through any hardware updates or anything like that. So new materials, we're constantly releasing new materials. In 2021, we released Onyx FRA and carbon fiber FRA. So we had FR already. So if you're not aware, we have a flame retardant version of Onyx, which is UL 94 V0 approved. Basically, it just means self-extinguishing on a vertical sample, doesn't drip, those kind of elements. What we've done with the abbreviation of A on the end is made it traceable. So we'll supply the certificate of conformity and traceability on those materials. So if you're in aerospace, if you're in the rail industry, if you're making parts where you have to prove your bill of material came from here and followed this process, this is the material for you. We obviously had to do it for the carbon fiber as well, because there's no point in just printing a polymer. We have to give you the strength behind it as well. Machinery wise, now my favorite printer at the moment, it will be replaced soon, but at the moment my favorite printer is my X7 or our X7 in the showroom. This is the industrial composite printer. It is phenomenal. I won't get into all the ins and outs of it, but I just love it. What Markforged did is released an even tougher version of their printer. And what we mean by that is they ruggedized it, made it useful in field. So you can see there, the top half of an X7 on sitting on top of a Pelly case. But it's not just stuck in a box that's airtight. They've put everything you need in there to run for months on end in field. There's material storage. There is all the spares, all the tools, everything you need to keep that running in field. It's very military looking. And to be honest, the military use a lot of these. Stick them in the back of wagons, print on demand, spares in the most challenging environments. But that applies to industry as well. Anything where there's a requirement to travel, this is now an option to keep it on the road, keep it moving and keeping your parts printed. Improve software. There's a lot to go through in software. First one I picked sounds like a dull one. New views or GUI in IGA. But what this is going to do, I can't share too many details today, is enable so many new features. So we've got a new look for the internal slicer. So when you start looking at the internals of your part, which is particularly important for Markforged, because you start looking at your fiber routing. Normally a polymer printer, you'd be like triangular infill, hexagonal, whatever it may be. It is what it is. But with ours, we're looking at all the faces that are supported, where we're putting that fiber, where we're getting the strength. We've got a much clearer view. And some of the things that are going to be released, I can't talk about just yet, are going to be aided by this. Continuing along the software theme, we released IGA Fleet. So if any of you are, shall we say, really into Markforged, you've got multiple sites with multiple printers, IGA Fleet is really crucial in a way. So there's elements of security like single sign-on and things like that, but where it really becomes into its own is role-based access. You can have super users. You can have somebody that can only set prints up but not get the printer going. You can have people that can just run the printer, can't touch any or amend the files in the software. It gives you real robust control over file verification and all the iterations and who can do what in the production line. It really is a benefit if you've got multiple locations with multiple machines. You've also got API integration. So there's some fun stuff there, but we'd have to kind of continue that conversation offline because it gets a bit technical for a webinar. We also have offline IGA. This isn't a new element. We have had offline IGA for a while, but in all honesty, before it was clunky. Now it's virtually a mirror image of our cloud-based software, just with the no online access. So we now have LAN support. So you can use your printer remotely on a private network rather than before you'd have to download your USB, walk to the printer and be there to run it. So offline IGA, if you're doing anything that's very secure, IP related, military related, that kind of thing, offline IGA's now a nice option for you. On the metal side of things, what did we do in 2021? We doubled the speed of it. No hardware updates, nothing, just eking out marginal gains in so many areas. So it started with stainless. So again, if you haven't sliced your files in a while and you're using a USB or you keep your files somewhere else and just transfer them to the printer, please slice them again. You are going to see about a 45% increase in speed on most materials. No hardware update at all. And that is going to go somewhere again in 2022. So expect it to get faster. So your machine just got more productive. Okay, let's get into where we're going this year then, the exciting stuff. The FX20. I can't speak highly enough about this new machine. Everybody loves a new bit of tech, but this is really a game changer for Markforged. Most people will know Markforged for their composite technology, which this is based on. A lot of people know the desktop or the industrial printer, the X7 I've talked about. This is going from desktop to industrial to production. We've got a printer with a huge volume that prints very fast with some new materials. So there's a brief video here that I'll just let it run through and then I'll cover some of the benefits of the new technology. Bit of dramatic music there. I thought it was a tad over the top when I first saw it, but I went and saw this machine in Germany at Formnext. We're getting ours late March, early April, hopefully, fingers crossed. It will be very soon, so you'll be able to come and see it. It is fast. That's the main thing. It's fast, it's big, it's strong. So we're talking about a build size of 525 by 400 by 400. So if you think about it, combine the polymers you're already using in Markforged with, let's be realistic about the build speeds. But so if any of you are a desktop user, the X7 can go twice as fast. This will go at least twice as fast again, hopefully a bit more than that. So we're talking big parts within the working day. So you can get something real massive within 6 or 7 hours in some new materials. So I'm not going to go over the current materials that we have, like Onyx, which will be on there, and FR and ESD. But we've now got Ultim 9085, so a well-used thermopolymer. Now you can put it on steroids by putting carbon fiber in it. People come to me, people have been printing Ultim for ages. I know that. You've got all kinds of people out there printing that material, but no one can make it strong. So we've got the elements of the flame, the toxicity, and the smoke characteristics of Ultim reinforced with a new version of carbon fiber for it. So, as I mentioned, carbon fiber meets Ultim. You're going to be able to make aerospace, automotive, end-use parts out of these kind of materials that are strong, finally. So covering some of the product features of the actual FX20, I could sit here and talk all day, so I'll just go over a couple of them. We can always have a conversation another time if you wanted to know more, or you're very soon going to be able to see it. So the materials I talked about, everything that you've basically got on your X7, you're going to be able to do, plus Ultim with some new fibers in there. Huge build volume. So this is our first printer that is with a heated chamber. You need that heated chamber to be able to do Ultim. We could not do it without it. But it also allows us to lay down material quicker. So when we're printing Onyx now, we're going to be able to heat that chamber up 50, 60 odd degrees. When we're printing Ultim, we'll probably go north of 150. Warming that chamber up, hammering that material down. We've got 3 nozzles. We're not going to be able to, or not going to have to, should I say, set these nozzles either with shims or any of that. They're actuating on their own. So basically those nozzles will come down when they're in use and retract when they're not. We've got 3 nozzles, one for a polymer, one for the fiber, and one for a new support material that's on its way. We've got a large touch screen on the front. That is what it is, but what it's all about is about the user experience and being able to interact with this printer. This is the most sophisticated printer we've ever manufactured, and all the data will be at your fingertips on the machine or through our software remotely. And then the material cabinet sounds a bit dull in a way, a material cabinet. Any of you that are used to Markforged, you've got a 1 kilo spool of Onyx or the other polymers out there. These are now 4 kilos and it will hold 4 spools. And it will auto flip between them and auto feed these spools in. So we've got a big volume that can run for a long time without any human interaction. And that's very important if you're going to take parts straight to the factory floor or you're producing production parts that are for sale. So I've kind of flew through the FX20 because I anticipate plenty of questions at the end about that. And we're going to very shortly be able to see it in the flesh. So we're going to be the first people in the UK to have it. And you're more than welcome to come and see it. We'll keep you updated about that. So more on 2022, Blacksmith. So any of you that don't know what our Blacksmith software is, at the moment it's available on the X7 and it's in-process inspection basically. So it will calibrate the machine, it will inspect the part as it's printing, so you can basically check the fidelity of the internals of your part. Because we're additively manufacturing, we may have channels that you can't measure traditionally. The inbuilt scanner in the X7 can inspect these as it's printing, and then at the end produce an inspection report. What that allows you to do is basically go straight from printer into production, missing the QA department because it's now been automated. Anyone that makes parts, anyone that's got an inspection process cannot undervalue the importance of this. Nobody hates to have a part that they know is good but has to sit in a bottleneck of a Q&A department, or worse, a part that's wrong that goes in production and then has to come back out. So if you need more details on Markforged Blacksmith technology, we can talk about that. But in terms of updates from where it currently is to where it's going in 22, this month we've just released 2 new features. So the inbuilt scanner at the moment, or until this month, had 3 options in terms of quality output. You could choose your point cloud density of low, medium, or high. What you can now do is vary it. You may have features on a component that need a lot of data points, a lot of curvature may be on there, like this element on the screen now, a knurled curved face. But if you're trying to measure a flat plane or feature, you don't need a lot of data. So you can vary how much data is collected from various points, which speeds the process up, makes it more accurate. And then the thing I love, verifying the fiber placement. Everything about our technology goes towards strong parts. But if you're going to put that in production, let's say it's going to go on a car, you need to verify the carbon fiber is where you said you wanted it to be. And that inbuilt laser scanner now does that as it's building. So what else is to come? Honestly, I have so much in the back of my head that I want to share with you, so much, but there's some things I can't share without an NDA at the moment. So if we want to take a conversation offline, we can do that kind of thing, but I can promise you there is more materials coming. There's more on the composite side of things coming over and above what I've already shared. There is a lot of new features and functionality. Some of it's going to be literally down at the desktop level. So you're going to benefit from so many new features this year that without any kind of outlay or hardware upgrades, there's some exciting stuff coming. And there's a lot of accreditations and approvals going on. We want to position ourselves with this FX20. As you saw, the aerospace, the oil and gas, the automotive industry. And with that, we need to be able to prove that these materials are fit for purpose. Things like NCAMP or whatever it may be, those kind of approvals, they're on their way. So it's some exciting times for Markforged in 2022. Hopefully this has been a bit of food for thought. I'd like to open it up to questions now. So put me on the spot and I'll do my best. There should be a little Q&A feature where you can type the questions in. Misha will shout them out and I'll answer them as they come in. So I'll just give you guys a couple of seconds to get some questions over. Please don't be shy. Put me on the spot. I'll, if I can't answer it now, I will get an answer and come back to you. While we're waiting for the questions to come in, if you did want to know any more information about what I've shared today, or you want to come and see us, we have a lot on the way. So we've got a lot of events. We're literally at Southern Manufacturing at Farnborough Air Show at the moment. My colleague Seamus is on stand H185 with our customer Goering. We've got some events at Derby and Reading, in-person events at their football grounds. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I'm not a football fan, so I don't want to upset anybody. And we're going to be having an open house at the end of February here. So I've got a slide with some dates on for you shortly, but it looks like some questions are coming in. So we'll see where we get to. We got any questions, Misha?
Yeah, we have do we have an event plan for the FX20?
There you go. Do we have an event plan for the FX20? We are waiting on final confirmation of our delivery date. What I can promise you is we know we're going to be the first in the UK. We are expecting and very, very much hoping it will be here for Mac. We'll be attending Mac the second week of April. So hopefully you'll see our new machine there. And then there will be, firstly, in-person events for existing customers. And then we're going to just open the place up and get people in front of the technology, see if it's right for you. Now, on that note, it's an important process between adopting a technology and just, we come across people that think they've had a go at 3D printing and it's sat there in the corner gathering dust. We are here to help you adopt it and get it into your current processes. That's where our value is, to be honest. So with the FX20, come and learn about it and we'll show you applications that work, how they've integrated that into their current processes and how it's changed the way they work. And I say they are the customers. Any more questions, Misha?
No questions yet.
Come on, guys, don't be shy. There should be.
Yes, we've got a question. How private can the data be?
Okay, how private can the data be? Good question. So the way the technology currently works and the way it works best is with cloud-based software. They say it works best functionality-wise. So we can operate our printers remotely. You can have them out in the field if they're based on the cloud or through a network connection. What we do at that point, your data is imported into our software. You have two ways of slicing. When we say slicing, that's basically working out like the G code behind it. We can either send it to a server, Amazon Web Services, and their security. So it's a very secure platform, ISO 27001 approved. It's the only 3D printing software that has that accreditation. Or you can use your local PC, the processing power of it, and not send it across the network to get processed. If you still have elements of security and IP that you don't want to go through that process, you need to use that offline IGA. Now, when we get into the nitty gritty of the levels of encryption and those kind of things, I've got a lot of documentation I can send you, and we can definitely have a conversation. Please reach out afterwards, but it's quite in depth. But what I can assure you is the biggest user globally is the US military. They have hundreds of our printers. The MOD in the UK is a very similar situation, printing some sensitive components and products. And it's good enough for those guys. The same with some high-end manufacturers of, should we say, components that are in R&D. We'll take the conversation offline and go into the specifics, but we have options to make it as secure as it can possibly be. Any more questions? Go on, guys. Hopefully, well, while we're waiting, please type your questions in. Don't be shy. While we're waiting for any more questions, I'll just go on to the next slide just to show you. If I can get it. Oh, okay. One's coming.
Is there a Markforged compatible software through which 3D modeling needs to be modeled? Or is it okay to use with any 3D design modeling software like Solid Edge?
Okay, so a question about the modeling software or the CAD software behind it, and is there any prerequisite for Markforged? The answer is no. There is 1,000,001 elements of software out there these days for CAD. As long as you've got the ability to produce an STL, that's all we need. That's where we pick up. So carry on with SolidWorks, NX, Inventor, whatever you might be using, CATIA. As long as you've got the ability to output your 3D CAD file into an STL, that's all we need. It's as simple as that, really. Just while we're waiting for the next question to come in, as I mentioned, my colleagues at Southern Manufacturing today for the next 3 days in Farnborough, stand H185 if you're going. We have an event at our offices here where you can come and see all the technology. That will be the 23rd of February. There we go. And then we've got an event at Derby Football Ground, Reading Football Ground. We're going to MAC the second week of April. So there's loads of going on, and that's without the launch of the FX20 when we get it. So we're anticipating that to be April, early May, where you're going to be able to get in front of it and get some benchmarks and parts printed off it. So on that note, if anyone wants more information, if you want a trial of the software so you can run your parts through it and get build times and costs, if you want any kind of data like on the materials, the ASTMs, if you want an introductory call or even for us to bring a printer down to your facility, please reach out. So we'll drop you a line or rather an email after this, just thanking you for attending. But please, if we can be of any help, let us know. I'll just come back to see if there is any more questions in the Q&A. Just so you've got a couple of details, you can get a copy of the webinar if you wanted to watch it again, or if any of your colleagues may be interested. As I mentioned, my name's Daniel. My email and mobile number's on there, or you can contact the office directly through that phone number or print stronger at mark3d.co.uk. So there's some exciting times ahead for Markforged. Hopefully you'll join us on that journey. And if there's no more questions, we'll leave it there. Thanks for coming.